All right. Good evening, everyone. Hello. I am using a microphone, not because I don't have a loud enough voice, but because we do have a couple of people who are on virtually, and without the microphone, they are not able to hear very well. So, welcome to the first ACTL meeting of the year. For those of you that I haven't met yet, I'm Jill Abbott. I will be the chair this year, working with all of you on a very packed agenda that we have this year already. So we're pretty excited to get started. One of the things for this evening, and those of you online, if you are having difficulties hearing or seeing, please just send something in the chat. You'll notice on all of your on the yellow name tags, there's a QR code. Please use that for your attendance so that we make certain that we recorded all. Those of you that are online, I'll send the URL shortly so that you can also register your attendance for this evening. So tonight, we do have a packed informative agenda, and the objectives are really we're going to review some of the work that we did. Not all of you were at the August 20th meeting where we talked a little bit about ACTL, talk about some of the new history requirements, and Christine is here from the APS and the central office to chat about that. And then working and discussing some of the items going on around the proposed changes for the School Board Advisory Committee. And Jonathan and Jenny will be here shortly for that. So it is a quick agenda this evening. Kathleen Clark is our board chair this year. And unfortunately, she is out of town on for work, but she did make a quick video for us. So hopefully.
Hey everyone, my name is Kathleen Clark. I'm the liaison to ACTL this year. I just want to take a quick minute to introduce myself. I'm one of the new board members elected in January this year. And I have kids in APS, one in elementary, one in middle, and one in high school. So I cover the gamut there. I'm coming to ACTL with a lot of knowledge of other working groups, special education, PTA, and ASAC, but this is actually my first time participating in ACTL. So I'm really excited to learn from you all in this. Wanted to share with you the focus areas this year for really for the school board and the superintendent. We're going to be working on these 5 focus areas within the strategic plan under partnerships, operations, workforce, student well-being, and student success, shown here on this screen. On this next slide, this is really looking at the specific priorities and projects for this year. And I've sort of highlighted the ones on this screen that I think that folks in ACTL are going to be interested in. The working group looking at strengthening our pre-K programs, the launch of School AI. We have a student device working group coming up. I want to just put a plug in this one. This is really going to be about the use of technology in the classrooms, not necessarily whether or not we are going to use technology. Next, we have the working group on the high school schedules. This is actually in its infancy stages right now, just getting the work kicked off the ground, but staff are going to be reviewing the high school schedules and different models that are possible. There are going to be means for community engagement for sure, but again, we're in this super early phase of kicking off this work. Next, I have on here the non-traditional secondary changes. And really what that is staff is going to be looking at reviewing the non-traditional secondary programs. Examples of that are going to be like Langston, our PEP program at the Career Center, and then Arlington Community High School. And the point is that we want to try to figure out how we can align the services there that are being provided. And, maybe if we need to do anything different. The one that I have on here that's not highlighted, but I have ASAC next to it, is the alternatives to exclusionary discipline with emphasis on students with disabilities. So that's going to be the other focus, I think, that will be of interest to our committees this year. I'm really excited to, start working with you. One or two plugs I just want to put in for this work. First, just when we go to the recommendations, it would be really helpful to have recommendations that are budget neutral or even some reductions. What are some things that we can remove?
Just a moment here. Oh, for some reason, it's not going to let us finish. I will make certain I get the rest of this sent out. I'm not sure why it's not continuing to play. Sorry about that. Sorry, Kathleen. So we'll pick up on that later, and I'll send out the rest of that information. She only had about 30 more seconds left of her video where she was going to talk about. So the recommendation she was talking about is the committees do make recommendations to the board, and they go through work sessions around all of that. We have 14 committees. And Jenny will be talking a little bit about those and what those look like for potentially next year. Hey, Jenny. And Mike Cieslik is the vice chair for committees, so he'll be working closely with the committees on those requests and recommendations. I'd also like to real quickly hand it over to Dr. Mann. He is our Chief Academic Officer for APS and one of the liaisons to ACTL.
Thank you, Jill. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wanted to make sure could hear me. All just kind of looked at me when I said that. I'm not going to repeat. I was going to say many of the things that Kathleen just said, but I'm not going to repeat those. But I will say, look out for this Friday. It's been a long week already, but this Friday you'll see the applications if you want to join the device work group. Our first meeting will be September 30th. So be on the lookout for that. If you're interested in that or share that with your community, it'll be, I think, in the Friday 5. And then also we are excited to continue the partnership with ACTL. We do listen to you and hope that we continue to get your feedback, and excited to see what Christine shares with you this evening, and then also what Jenny and I just lost his name. Jonathan, thank you. Share with us this evening where we're going with our committees from the school board. We know in Arlington, feedback is important to us. And so looking forward to continuing that partnership. And again, thank you for being here this evening. And let's continue to get people to represent each school. You may not know this, but we meet with the leadership once or twice a month to talk about agendas and ideas. And so this is not just come once a month for us, but it really is going to make sure that this is useful time for you. So please, and thank you for the work ahead this year. And I hope your students all had a great start to the school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mann. So just a quick reminder of the work that we really do. We do have 4 charges that are outlined within the PIP. We try not to use acronyms. And I'll be honest, I'm not sure what the full PIP stands for, but it's the policies for all of the work that we do, the committees do, everything pretty much outlined for APS. So really there's 4 of those. One of them is to review and make recommendations around policies, implementation procedures, variety of different components that come into play, making recommendations, which we talked about, and providing input into what those potential new programs and practices are. Assisting the school board with sending information out into the community. So what we intend on doing, and we did last year as well, is we create either a 1 or 2 page flyer that summarizes the information that we heard. So with Christine, we'll have a 1 or 2 page flyer that you then, if you choose to, can disseminate it to your school community. And that way we can just get information out around what's going on in teaching and learning within APS from a broader perspective. And then finally, reviewing the various topics from time to time. All of our meetings are FOIA-able. So that means that anybody at any time from the public can request information from these meetings. I will be sending out some more specific guidance around what each of that means, so that we can make certain that we are not doing things that we shouldn't be doing. So for example, email, 5, 6, 7 people get together and are emailing about different topics. Well, does that constitute a public meeting? Because these meetings are open to the public and we have very strict rules that we have to do to publish the agenda and the minutes and all of those aspects. Any questions? Yes.
Are the meetings recorded?
They are recorded, yeah. And those summaries, it's usually a couple days after I get them out to you all, but then they also are given to our liaison at APS, who then also posts them on the website if anybody wants to listen to them as well. So the ACTL leadership this year, I mentioned myself, Jenny, where's Jenny? Jenny Gordon. She's one of our vice chairs and working very hard on engagement. Mike Cieslak, as I mentioned, is subcommittees. Heather, I didn't see Heather come in. Nope. And then Sasha McNichol, she's also a co-secretary. There's also a CCPTA meeting this evening where they're doing a vote. So we are missing some people and Sasha's at that particular meeting. Before we jump over to Christine, one thing that I did want to talk about is I've had conversations with several of you, and as Dr. Mann said, we've been planning since June, July, and working all through the summer to set up the year and those types of things. And one of the things that I heard from several people is a desire to do more virtual meetings. We are under Virginia law of how many meetings we can do virtually. We can do 50% of our meetings virtually, which would mean 5 meetings. We could have 100% virtual. Just by a quick nod, and then we'll do a formal vote if this is the direction people want to do. Would people like to do the 5 meetings that are virtual? I'm seeing nods. Okay. So we do follow. Oh, yes, go ahead. Sure.
If we ended up having,
Hold on one second now.
we ended up having a weather day that impacted an in-person meeting and we had to move to virtual, would that count against our 50% ratio?
So if memory serves me, if there's a weather incident, we would not have a meeting because there's not school that day and APS staff wouldn't be there as well. Okay, would somebody make a motion?
Motion to have 50% virtual meetings.
Okay, Jenny, is there a second? Second from Jamie. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstain? Okay, great. So we will select and choose those and send them out. We did do several meetings last year virtual as well. And I think we got it worked out with the breakout groups and those types of things. So we did still have lots of interactivity in those specific meetings. All right. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Christine Joy, who is the social studies supervisor for APS. Give me 1 second and I'll pull up your slides.
Good evening, everyone. So I was asked to come and just give you a few updates on the social studies curriculum and some of the changes that have occurred this year. The changes actually started in 2023 when the standards were adopted in April. And you'll see in just a minute, there's a little timeline on the second page for you, just so you can kind of see the visual. Last year was our crosswalk year. And actually, our textbooks were, resources were out of date. And the state had delayed the implementation of the standards already. And so during this time, we went ahead and adopted resources, knowing that the curriculum wasn't fully, the resources wouldn't be updated or aligned to the new curriculum, but we were so out of date. It was really critical that we move forward with that resource adoption. So last year we did our crosswalk year, and staff, teachers really got a chance to look at the standards, what's new, how might I do this in the future, how might I implement this, can I try implementing it now? And then with the understanding of this year would be the jumping into the full adoption. In the past, the state had designed their instructional guides, and it was called an instructional guide, and it was very explicit in terms of the big ideas that teachers needed to teach, and as well as the little things like, here are the people you need to know your students need to know, and it was very, it was a lot. And it got into minute details. And the shift to a curriculum guide from an instructional guide is really, trying to get social studies teachers away from the, nitty gritty detailed memorization into thinking, and using critical thinking skills more, and having students apply their understanding more than having to memorize all those little details. And so the curriculum guide was developed in that way. The thing is, the instructional guide did not provide, or the standards don't provide a lot of clarity about why things might be in it. For example, Ben Franklin in second grade, he's someone that second graders need to know, but why? He's did so many things. So if we're going to teach about him, what exactly do we need to teach about? Do we need to make sure second graders need to know? And so the instructional guides weren't actually released until, many of them weren't released until late this spring. So those are now in place, but the state is going to be continually updating them. And so we have to check back and look for updates on, are there new resources in play? So those will constantly be updated on the VUE website. The full implementation started this year. The big change isn't necessarily with the curriculum, but with the resources that we're providing for the teachers, especially at the elementary level, where teachers have asked for, especially social studies teachers want way more developed resources to utilize in their classroom. And so that's what our team spent the summer doing, is building out those resources to meet the needs of the teachers and the students. And that's really where the big changes will be, but that's not front facing to the community. And then in 2026, assessments will be developed to reflect those new standards. Yes.
What do you mean when you talk about those resources?
Teachers wanted like slide decks, for example, on a unit, or, assessments that they could use in classes. Could you give me a station activity for this, kind of activity? And so we built out those stations for them. Any other questions? Okay.
You want to go to the next slide?
Yep, please. The big emphasis, the big change that I've already mentioned really is, not only is there building knowledge, strong civic knowledge, economic understanding, and geographic literacy, the really big shift from the previous standards is a real push for critical thinking and developing that. And you've seen that from APS and from social studies over the years with implementation of something called project-based assessments. So where we moved away from just SOLs into projects and getting kids to apply their understanding of like core knowledge and the skills. So we have those two things, but really it's more formal in this document, teaching kids how to analyze primary and secondary sources, weighing multiple perspectives, which you would expect in the social studies classroom, and practicing that civil discourse. So, and then also inclusive history. There's a lot more opportunities for students to think about diverse perspectives on issues. So those are really the main updates for social studies. Yes, and I see we have a couple questions.
Hold on 1 second.
Hi, Pooja Brosher, I'm my students are students in elementary. So, because I'm involved in this litigation, I was happy to see that Arlington is looking back on the government, trying to delineate what type of diverse history we are teaching. How has that shaped this inclusive history element?
So all curriculum is local, right? And so we follow the state standards. I've asked teachers to remain grounded in the state standards And so the federal government may, do things like impact finances or withhold money, but they're not driving the curriculum. That is done at the state and local level.
And so is that essentially then Arlington remains free to follow what the state has required of it, notwithstanding.
That's
potential
correct.
Increase in funding.
Correct. We're following the state standards.
Thank you.
Yes.
I was gonna ask sort of a related question, but state versus local, like, so you were saying the state puts out the sort of curriculum, like in second grade, you have to learn Ben Franklin. So how much flexibility or sort of authority do we have at the local level to figure out how we're gonna teach kids about the topics the state sets?
I would say we have a lot of flexibility in how we teach kids, not necessarily what we teach kids. So the state is setting the standards, but we can provide professional learning for our teachers and structures in place for our teachers, so they feel comfortable teaching history or economics and they feel comfortable in different strategies and how to engage students.
Okay, and is the state providing sort of, you need to read this book and use these resources, or is that at the APS level?
The state will be developing a list of textbooks that align with the 2023 standards. However, they have not done that yet. And so, it's a good thing we adopted textbooks when we did, because they're still not there.
Okay.
And by the way, our textbook companies that we did purchase, they've all updated their online resources to align with the 2023 standards. So I think we're in a good place in terms of resources.
Jenna Kotler, HB, middle school. What about from administration to administration, if we're talking about the state level? Do we have to change from administration to administration with the election coming up?
I would imagine you might see some changes in state standards during the next adoption cycle, or perhaps maybe those instructional guides, which are designed to be flexible documents. Perhaps you'll see some different kinds of resources being utilized in there. But generally speaking, with social studies, we try to stay grounded in those really credible sources like the National Archives or the Library of Congress. So those are the resources we really try to ground ourselves in.
Okay, thank you. To make sure.
Yeah.
Anyone else with any questions for Christine? Okay. Oh, Tia. Oh, yep.
We want to make sure, to be clear, are we rolling this out for all grade levels at the same time?
Yes. So all grade levels. Now there is a change to, we're realigning to align with the state standards in 5th grade. We are rolling that out next year. So the 5th grade curriculum will remain ancient history this year. And then the following year, it will be U.S. History Part 1 through the American Revolution.
So that we compare them for middle.
Correct. Okay. And it would be aligned with the state.
Okay, I'm gonna check online real quick and see if they've thrown any questions in the chat. And they have not. So if you do think of a question after she leaves, there's index cards on every table. Just jot it down and I can synthesize all that. And oh, we've got one more from Jennifer.
What happens to the 5th graders this, will they be ready for elementary school or for middle school?
So the 5th graders this year will take world history. They will, in 6th grade, have a full year of U.S. History 1 and 2, which is what kids are currently experiencing. And then the following year, 5th grade will transition to teaching U.S. History 1. 6th grade will remain the same. And then the following year, you'll have that adjustment. So there'll be a lot more, it will not be as condensed in 6th grade. Yes,
Does APS teach world geography?
yes.
What grade is that?
World geography is taught in eighth grade.
Eighth grade, okay.
It's a ninth grade course taught at the eighth grade level. And then world geography, well, not necessarily world geography itself, but geography is woven throughout a lot of the standards. And given that I was a world geography teacher, I made sure to weave in more geography throughout the kids' units.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Christine. We appreciate you coming this evening. And Jenny, do you have an updated slide deck? Are you using a slide deck?
Yes. I don't have those. Thank you.
Okay.
We're ready for us.
Yeah. And while we're waiting for Jonathan, one thing that I did want to mention earlier as well is what we decided to do to stay super focused this year on our topics based on the data and feedback that we received from all of you is we're doing two different types of looking at topics, so to speak. One is what we just did, and Christine left, is the APS Spotlight. So we'll be spotlighting 4 different topics this year based on the information that you all provided at the end of last year that you would like to know more about. In November, we'll talk about literacy. So in the 23-24 school year, we spent a lot of time talking about literacy as we had introduced a whole new literacy curriculum. So we will have that team come and provide an update in terms of what's going on, as well as there is for middle schools, there's a discussion about the new full year reading requirement. So making certain that we discuss that. And then in March, we'll talk about some writing instruction and some of the big questions and feedback and structures of what is that going to look like. And then in May, we'll talk about mathematics. So there was a lot of interest last year in the survey about mathematics and how to give students access to more advanced mathematics. So in May, we'll come back and talk about that. And then we'll be diving deep into 2 topics, which I'm calling the focus topics. And one is on AI. We spent some time last year doing that. We'll be doing that again. Jackie Furster from APS is overseeing what all of that looks like, and she'll be coming in November and then also coming back in April. So that's where we'll go out and we'll get lots of feedback from our community. We'll put together a report that we'll give to the board around this is what we're hearing from the ACTL reps and their communities. And then the second deep dive topic is going to be on executive functioning, and we'll look at that in March. And I believe that Jenny and Jonathan are ready now. Any questions on those spotlights or the focus topics for this year?
What was the month for the school one?
For writing instruction?
You said there was a middle school discussion. It was after the literacy.
Oh, it is literacy. It's part of the literacy discussion. Yeah. Yes, Anna,
Can you like circulate that list?
I will. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I don't have my glasses on. Yes. Welcome, Robin.
I have a question for Dr. Mann.
Give you the microphone so people online can hear.
Yes, I have a question. I just wanted to follow up about the working groups. You mentioned the AI working group is forming now, I think. But what about the one mentioned on alternative non-traditional secondary schools? Has that group been formed yet? Something I missed that personally.
Oh, here we go.
So there's the working group there's a working group on devices. There's gonna be one on high school schedules and early childhood. I don't remember if it's going to be an official working group for the community on the alternative schools. I think that may be internal with our high school principals, high school principals. So don't quote me on that. Just there's a lot of working groups. That's the one that's not in the Office of Academics. So that's why I don't want to give you the wrong information, but I know they've been working on it.
I now remember you said it on her.
Yes, you did.
All right, well, we're going to turn it over to Jenny Rowan Rizzo and Jonathan Tracy to chat a little bit about what's been going on for almost a year now in terms of looking at advisory groups. Go for it.
Well, Jonathan plugged in. There you go. Sorry, while Jonathan plugged in, I will just introduce myself.
I do have some people online. Can I send them the old slide deck or have there been changes?
There have been changes.
You before I started off with ACTL as the rep for Augusta and eventually served as a chair and vice chair for subcommittees on last year. And now I am chairing with one of the leaders of the working group on advisory, school board advisory council. They have a assessment and we want to re-envision these process. I have an 11th grader here at APS and I have a proud APS graduate who is a sophomore in college. And I'll just start, I'm probably gonna say some of this, but last fall, almost exactly a year ago, last September, the school board issued a charge to form a working group to look at school board advisory committees and really look with the opportunity of the strategic plan to see if advisory groups are structured in the best way that they can be to really support APS in realizing the goals that are in the strategic plan. And so the school board put out a call for applications for that, and they formed a 22-member working group. It includes students, it includes parents, it includes community members, it includes staff from both schools and central office. And we've been meeting once a month since last November, taking a little bit of time off for the summer from our meetings, although a lot of behind the scenes work, to develop an initial proposal. And I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan.
And real quick, those of you online, check your email here in just a minute or two, and you'll be getting the slide deck in your email.
Jonathan Teresi, nice to be here with you all. The Director of Accountability, Evaluation, and Strategic Planning in the Chief of Staff Office. This is my 15th year in APS. I was a teacher at WNL back in the day and AP at Wakefield, and I've been up at Central Office for 5 years. And I really love being a part of APS and the supportive community we have. And so I always love these opportunities to engage. There's always great feedback to be had. So happy to be with you to present this presentation and give you an update on, as Jenny said, the group's work over the past year. This is part, just to give you a 30,000 foot, this is part of a broader effort that we've been engaged in since June of 24 to align the entire work of the school division to the strategic plan. So for example, all of the schools in APL plans where they identify their top 5 greatest areas of need and an action plan to address those. All of those action plans are aligned to the strategic plan. So many schools are addressing inclusion. Many schools are addressing chronic absenteeism, the gaps that exist in reading, the gaps that exist in math. So all of our schools have goals tied to the strategic plan. Every central office department has an action plan that is being developed. We're going to make those publicly available in October. They're still kind of fine-tuned adjustments, but you can see the previous 2 years' plans. Those are posted on the website. All of the superintendent and all cabinet members' evaluations are tied back to the strategic plan. So since June of 24, we have been working meticulously to align the work of the entire school division to the strategic plan. The belief, right, theory of action is that if we are all working towards these goals, we have a great likelihood of achieving them. If it's just, you know, a little here, a little there, and we're not systematic in our approach, it's not likely we're going to achieve these goals. So just big picture, this effort to align the work of the school board committees is part of that broader effort in APS to align everything we do back to the strategic plan, which the school board, the superintendent, and the broader community helped shape over a 1.5-year process back in 23-24. So that's kind of putting this in context as you kind of look at this presentation tonight. Just this is an outgrowth of that effort. So with that, just our current state of the current advisory committees we have that advise the school board. And just as a reminder, the ones that are joint county boards, this is not part of the process. So JFAC, for example, That is a joint school board and Arlington County advisory group. So this working group is not tackling that because that also touches the county. So those 2 or 3 groups, the transportation and JFAC, that was kind of outside of our scope. The school board did not charge us with tackling that topic. So we're really focusing on what you see up on the board. Slide rather. And so the why are we doing this work? I kind of shared that, but just a little bit more details with having councils that are flexible and agile to be responsive to our needs. You know, if we had done this a few years back, chronic absenteeism was not one of our greatest areas of needs in the school division. But since the pandemic, it's doubled. That's a nationwide trend. So as we evolve, AI, right, is becoming, certain needs arise. And so we need to be nimble. Our strategic plan is agile. We need these groups to be agile as well. The council recommendations, one thing is that by bringing together parents, educators, community members, those different perspectives are really helpful in developing recommendations that can really help move the school division forward. So we think there's immense power in bringing those groups together, engaging in dialogue, learning from one another. So with that is also part of our why for doing this. Looking into account district-wide needs, but as well as the constraints. What are the budgetary constraints? What are facility constraints around some of we need to be, you know, real to make recommendations that are viable and lofty and ambitious, but also realistic. And so with this framework, you'll see there's some structures here, like this concept I'm going to share with you tonight of having a budget rep on every council. So whether it's academics, whether it's student health, that there's someone with budget expertise to help the group think about, okay, this recommendation, I can help cost that. And when we deliver recommendations to the board can see that lens as well. So school board receives input on specific topics that reflect a broad range of perspectives. As you'll see in the membership structure, having those different stakeholder groups is really key to that, getting those multiple perspectives. So this is our why of behind it. Sometimes people will ask, what's the problem we're trying to fix? And we're not saying that there's a problem we're trying to fix. We're saying that there's an opportunity to strengthen these groups, and a new framework with our strategic plan provides some opportunities for us to recalibrate and renew and refocus. So it's not that we're saying, the board is saying that the current state is broken and we're trying to fix all these problems. It's just a chance for the new strategic plan to better align the work. So I do want to make that point. You can see here the purpose. I don't need to read it to you, but again, it ties back to the strategic plan as being a big driver. So where we are in this process, we're about to kick off a month-long engagement. And between the middle of September through the middle end of October, we're going to be doing focus groups. We're going to be doing community forums. We're going to launch a survey in a couple of weeks to get a broad range of stakeholders to look at this proposal, tell us what's working, what doesn't work, what are some suggestions to make it better. We obviously have some more directed questions than that, but big picture, that's what we're looking for. This working group is going to meet at the end of October to look at all the feedback that was collected and decide what potential revisions do we need to make to be responsive to the major themes that we saw in the feedback. I'll tell you, when Jamie was part of this effort, when we did the strategic plan, the working group she was part of from that, we made probably 140 edits to the strategic plan. Now that's a large document, but I can assure you any process that I lead or involved with, I make sure that the committee is really thoughtfully considering. I structure the conversations in a way that feedback is thoughtfully considered and that we look for opportunities to strengthen our proposal. So I will give you that assurance. I'm not going to promise that every single feedback leads to a tangible change, but there will be revisions. There will be thoughtful consideration of what people share. So November 18th, we have a work session with the board. So we're going to share the working group's proposal, share the feedback we collected, and then from there, the working group will have their final meeting in December where they finalize their recommendation to the board. Following that, I'm going to pass this proposal on to Stephen Marcoux, our Director of Policy, who will lead it through the policy and PIP revision work to codify this. So the new framework and structure for school board, it'll get enshrined in policy and PIPs. And that process will happen in the springtime. And that's what the board will vote on. The board is not going to vote on the working group's recommendation. They're going to take that recommendation and it's going to cycle through the policy and PIP revision process. And then the board will vote on that in the springtime, around March, we're thinking. So questions on the timeline or where we are in the process? Okay, great. So the proposal is that there are 5 advisory councils. ASAC is required by the Code of Virginia, so that kind of remains as is. And these 4 are newly proposed councils. So the Academic Advisory Council, the Student Health and Wellbeing, the Personnel, and the Operations. And you can see how they are aligned to the strategic plan priorities. So the Academic Advisory Council would be primarily tackling items that fall within the student academic growth and success priority of the strategic plan. So that's looking at SOL proficiency across subject areas. That's looking at our growth measures. How are our students growing? That's looking at inclusion, and that's looking at college and career readiness. Those are a big part of the state accreditation framework as well. Those are indicators that are used to accredit our schools. That's about 80% of them right there, just in those 4 sub-bullets. So not only do they align with the strategic plan, they are a key component of what determines our school's accreditation. So you can see the others as well. I'm going to focus most of my comments tonight on academics. I know that's of great interest, but the others are there as well. One thing I will say is that the school board would deliver a charge in the spring before the groups convene, before we even put out the applications to the public about whether or not you want to volunteer to be part of it, to say, hey, in the upcoming year, we're asking the Academics Advisory Council to tackle these topics. Deliver us a recommendation on how we can scale co-teaching practices. We're going to work, the board will work to develop a charge, but there's going to be a clear direction from the board to each of these advisory councils about topics that are priorities for them that they would like feedback from the community on from these groups. That charge will be developed so that when people are seeking to apply to be part of the Academics Council, to be part of the operations, they know what the focus area is for the year ahead. And we hope that can mobilize people to action, saying, hey, I'm really passionate about that topic. I'd love to throw my hat in the ring and be considered for this group. So that is a big part of the reframing, is that the board is going to give some clear direction to the groups. At the same time, the board is open to giving space. If the chairs in the group are saying, hey, yes, that was a great charge, this is also another hot topic in the community that is really resonating with the group. Is there space for us to weigh in on this? Is this something that is meaningful to the board at this time? So there is flexibility for the chairs and the council to work in concert with their board liaison to potentially add to that. So the charge is not the here all end all, but it is a great starting point that's going to drive the work. We're going to add, we're still working with the board on this. I didn't want to prematurely put anything, but in the presentation we give to the community, we will have some sample charge statements just to give people a flavor, like what is a charge? We know some members of the community be like, what's a charge? And so giving some examples. This is a draft presentation. This is not getting walked out for another 3 weeks. So we will have some samples in here for people to see. So again, our rationale, aligning with the council's priorities, the policies and PIP language, district needs, similar to what the previous slide I shared. And again, embedding a budget rep across the councils. The scope of work, reviewing, recommending, and informing relevant strategies and initiatives within the strategic plan, sharing perspectives from the community and assisting with gathering feedback. What that looks like in expectations is still being kind of defined, keeping in mind your volunteers, many of your families, full-time jobs, right? That in terms of doing extra work outside of this group, we want to make sure that it's feasible and realistic. But at the same time, too, the board knows that many people, you guys can be a sounding board for ideas. I think the ACTL structure, they get rep feedback from the community. So there's some existing structures already within ACTL. For other groups that hasn't really been part of their work, but we do think there's value there in that. So the organizational charts. So For ASAC, this is the proposed structure in terms of the membership. Some of this, in terms of one staff member, that is actually specifically stated in the Code of Virginia about one staff. So there are some constraints with who can be on this group based on the Code of Virginia. But this is the proposed structure in terms of term limits for the chair and vice chair for the membership. This idea again of having a budget rep and also some parents from Title I schools to make sure that voice is represented as they're talking about issues that are germane to that group. And that the parents and students are really a cross-section of the community to the greatest extent. Yes.
Please.
So I'm the outgoing ASAC chair.
Yes.
I love the idea of having some designated parent seat and staff seat or a Title I rep. My understanding is I think we've actually just lost our teacher rep who was amazing, but she's left the district sadly. And so my thought my question is APS, it is a state requirement that we have a staff member. And so and those years when we don't have a staff member, will APS be helping to find and solicit a staff member, particularly from the Title I school, to be involved? It is actually the requirement. And so my understanding is that technically,
Yes.
Jonathan, Jonathan.
Okay.
We'll just do that.
Thanks. For sure, on the recruitment piece, that is a big part of the APS working with the school board to help using our communication channels to elicit volunteers. For the staff volunteer to be from a Title I school, I think we can certainly seek for that. At a minimum, we want the staff member, to make sure that we're in compliance with the code. The Title I was particularly, for the parents and the staff, if possible. It's a little unique with the ASAC and the expectation of having at least one staff member for that group, but certainly would strive for it to be a Title I staff member if possible. So the Academic Advisory Council, the proposal is that this group could potentially reach up to 63, potentially, is that there could be up to 40 parent reps if we had one rep from each of our schools and programs. So that is part of the proposal, is that it could exceed that. I'm sorry, it could reach that number. Students, we could have anywhere from no students to 4 students on the group. Community reps, same thing, anywhere from 0 to 6. Staff members from 6 to 10. Here was one revision we made last night with the working group, is that the ratio of parents to staff would be no less than 4 to 1. So if there were 40 parents, there'd be no more than 10 staff. If there were 20 parents, there'd be no more than 5 staff, to keep this a predominantly parent community group with some staff voice. So there's another slide in the appendix that explicitly states that. And actually, I think I did, no less than a 4 to 1 ratio. I did add that in. So that was a change. I know that deck was sent out last week, but just last night, the group, based on some of the feedback we looked at from the summer, the group felt that we needed to codify that to ensure that the Academics Advisory Council still remains a predominantly parent. If there were a year where we only had 15 parents volunteer and we had 10 staff, that equal kind of balance was not seen as that was seen as a concern by a board member and some members of the community. So we wanted to be explicit that it would be proportional. Yes.
Is there a minimum age on a student?
We were thinking high school. If we had some ambitious middle schoolers that we thought would, had the aptitude and, capacity to really meaningfully contribute, I think it could be considered for sure. Yeah, I think we were primarily thinking through a high school lens, but yes.
So now if we want to be on this committee, we would have to apply?
Yes. All the councils, yes. So I believe last year when people applied, the school board office made clear that everyone's appointment for this year was for this year only. So everyone who's on any committee, any school board advisory, it's for this year only. People will have to reapply. The school board office, I believe, made clear in the application process in the springtime.
Do you know what the reasoning of that is?
Yes, this new structure, and just giving, we're hitting like a reset and a new reframing. And so that, we want to give people a chance to reapply. Now, at the same time, the term limits, we're proposing that are also a fresh start. So some people are close to reaching their maximum years they can serve on an advisory committee. Now we're pushing the reset button on that as well. That's part of the proposal. Is that, you know, if you're close to your term, your maximum number on an APS advisory committee, that yes, you will have to reapply in the spring, but we're also resetting the clock on your maximum time served. Yeah. Yeah.
Grab the mic, Jenny. Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to add to that, that in addition to geographical representation and diversity being important, the working group also really feels that other types of diversities are important, such as, you know, demographics and, different neighborhoods that people come from, school levels, all of these things. So the idea is that the board will be looking really more closely at the application and really looking to achieve a variety across all sorts of different factors so that we're getting a really good variety of viewpoints.
Thank you. Here, no one more, but yes, hey, Rhonda.
Why the chair, hold on one second.
Sure.
I was wondering, what is the thinking behind having the chair only 1 year? Because it takes a person, as a new chair myself, so I know, you know, the first year you're learning the ropes, and the second year you'll be more comfortable with it. So I was just wondering, what was the thinking behind that?
Yes, so chairs can serve for 3 years. If I go back to that, sorry, I'm jumping around. Oops. So it's a 1-year term. Yes, so they could essentially serve 3 years in a row. Yes, correct. Yeah, on that. Very, thank you for asking. Here, yes. Thank you. Thanks.
2 questions. So what is the application process to be, like, what is the criteria that the selectors are looking for in the applicant? And then also, what was the impetus behind changing that budget one for? I guess I don't know what the ratio used to be, but it probably had fewer parents, more teachers. And so what was the reason for the change there?
Okay, yeah, so the membership slide, detail slide, gives more details on like some of the criteria, so I'll go to that in a minute. On the, you talked about the 4-to-1 ratio. So in the current policy, there's no like ratio stated. And so the group last night, as we talked through this some more, felt like based on the feedback we received this summer from the chairs and the board members, that we needed to ensure that this academics council still remains predominantly parents and community members. And so the proposal that we revised last night was let's have a 4-to-1 ratio. Let's codify that so that we maintain that. So that was just in response to feedback that they want this to still to be predominantly a parent community member committee.
If I understand your question correctly, that think about was it usually more staff? No, actually, the current is that there are, generally speaking, no staff who are members of ACTL. There have occasionally been staff when a school has not been able to identify a parent rep to serve. But so the addition of staff is new to this, and again, trying to make sure we're involving all stakeholders in the conversations to develop recommendation to the board that really considers all the different components and viewpoints and perspectives.
Yeah.
So I have another question. In order to get this broad diversity that you're seeking for this academic council, how are you going to advertise? You cannot only do it on the web. Are you going to be approaching individual schools and talking to the principals and saying, hey, you need to nominate somebody or talk to somebody to represent their school, or how are you going to do this?
Yeah, so all of the details of like the recruitment plan are still being developed, but we would certainly work in concert with our experts, school and community relations, to help engage the community and all of the ways, like you said, just posting on the website, you know, is not enough. We would need a lot of outreach, working with, just like we did when we were doing the strategic plan, just really engage the community, civic associations, lots of different groups that we can actually get into the communities. We talked with APA, you know, when we were trying to get reps to just an engagement for the strategic plan, and they were able to the NAACP, Tia and the group, like they were helpful in our outreach efforts. So tapping into a lot of community groups, I envision will be part. There's not like a codified, detailed recruitment plan at this juncture. Part of it is because what this framework will still look like. But as this framework comes to be more finalized and solidified, we will certainly build out and work with school and community relations to have a robust outreach plan. But some of the elements that we're hoping help with the outreach is like having clear direction so people know like what they're signing up for. Hey, you're signing up for a group that's going to be tackling these topics. And we're hoping that that also helps mobilize people to action and seeing that this is something that they want to be part of. But yeah, well, there will be a robust engagement plan to help. Thank you for that. Over here, yes. Hi. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Tia. Hey, there you.
I wanted to ask the distinction between staff, and I've heard you say teachers versus the subject matter experts. Do you mean someone who's in leadership here in sidebacks as a subject matter expert, or what do you mean?
Subject matter experts, we're thinking predominantly in the community. So someone who may have expertise in a certain area, maybe there's someone who works in English learners. I know we have one community member I've worked with in the past who's an expert in the area of English learners, and we tapped her a lot for her expertise. And so I think we're thinking more through the community lens. It's not totally exclusive to that, but if that was the predominant thinking, that would be a community member.
Okay, then staff would be specifically teachers in the specific area associated with that specific.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, thank you. This is actually, you queued me up. So, yeah, membership detail. So this may elicit some questions too, but to answer your question, so the proposal is that of the 6 to 10 staff members, we would have the bulk of it would be school-based staff. These could be classroom teachers, counselors, a specialist, a coach, a math interventionist. Any of those folks could fill like those school-based seats. And then at the central office level, could be a specialist or non-supervisory. That was explicit, that this isn't like, we're not looking, the staff rep is, we're not looking for the staff rep to be the math supervisor or for the ELA supervisor. We're looking for it to be someone who's a little bit, down more in the day-to-day with the schools. That's the big driver. It's mostly school-based staff, and the central office staff would be non-supervisory staff and specialists who spend most of their time in schools too. So that's the staff breakdown that we're proposing. Particularly anyone with experience with special populations, SPED, gifted, those would be other criteria that would be considered by the board.
And then Angie had a.
I have a question about the parents.
Yes.
Or when I read it, it's implied that the parents would be us, the actual ACTL people here, or are you going to be reaching out to the PTAs? How are you recruiting these parents?
Yeah, so the recruitment plan is still in development, but everyone would need to reapply. So everyone who's here today is not necessarily guaranteed to see. If let's just say this continues to go through and we have the Academics Advisory Council, everyone here is not necessarily guaranteed a seat on that council next year. If you would need to reapply. And so as we think to the earlier question of once we have this framework solidified and the number of reps and the representation, then we can develop a robust engagement plan knowing, hey, we're really looking for 6 to 10 school-based, so 4 to 7 school-based staff. We want a good mix of teachers. We've already gotten some initial feedback this summer about who these folks might be. And roles within the school system. Like we've heard a lot, these should be primarily school-based people across all the committees. Yes.
Okay, so it could be any parent within the APS community.
Correct.
Could private school parents apply?
We could put them in as community reps. I think that was part of like, as we look at the applicant pool. Yeah, that's a good question. Jenny, can you write that down? Yeah. That's a good question. I'll bring it back to the group if they would be the parent bucket or the community bucket. If you're a parent of a student, if you live in Arlington, but they don't go to APS schools. Yeah. Thank you.
Hi. Just a question about once people apply. I know that there's still a lot of development, but who is selecting them? And how is that selection process going to be identified? And how will we ensure that they're, I know that it sounds like the driver is equity and diversity and all of those things, but how will we ensure that that happens? And is there any oversight to that?
The school board will be appointing, just like they do currently, they'll be appointing the members. In terms of like transparency around the process, that's something I can certainly share with them and work with them on to have clarity around what their process will be once they get the applicants. In the past, I know like when I worked with the board on, we've kind of like sorted the applicants into these buckets, right? All right, here's the 25 parents who applied, here's the 5 students, and then they look at the criteria and make those determinations. But that's point is well taken. We can make sure that that there's more clarity around that the selection process. Thank you for raising that.
I just had a quick cycling back to the private school parent.
Yes.
Because that would be a departure from what we currently have, which I realize this is all shaking it up, but we currently do allow private school Arlington community members who perhaps have students in private school as a part of our subcommittees. So
I was thinking more like what bucket they would be placed in, if we would consider if they would fill a seat as a community rep, or if they would take up a parent allocation.
got you. I just wasn't sure.
Yeah.
The comment was no private school.
Oh, no, they would. It's just a matter of where they would be placed. You know, as a community rep seat, filling one of those seats, or a parent seat, or potentially if they were an SMA. Yeah.
So Jonathan, we have about 10 minutes
Okay.
left on this agenda item. Were there other highlights, or do you want to
Yes.
keep taking questions right now?
Let me share a few more things that I think are important, particularly around subcommittees. So part of the working group right now, they are considering 2 proposals with regards to the subcommittees. One thing I want to impress upon is that the working group is saying their proposal is that subcommittees could exist within any of the 5 advisory councils. Right now in APS, we have the 13 subcommittees that primarily exist under ACTL and the policy. So this is kind of on the left side, a high-level overview of our current state. The working group is wrestling with 2 proposals. Right now, there's multiple opinions. That's why we weren't able to hone in on one. So the feedback we get from the community will help the working group see, like, are we gonna move forward with option 1, option 2, or maybe an option 3 that is yet to be developed. So the feedback we get over the next month is gonna help the working group kind of narrow in and build consensus around an option. But option 1 was that subcommittees would be formed on an ad hoc, as needed basis only. So as the school board delivers a charge, both the school board and the chair and the committees would decide, hey, do we need a subcommittee to help do some side research to help tackle this charge? The board wants to know about co-teaching structures. We're gonna have 5 people in our council splinter off as a subcommittee to dive deep into that topic and do like a study for 3 months and come back and report back. So that was kind of the thinking with option 1, is that subcommittees would be as needed. The school board could decide in a given year if they need a certain group to convene for a set amount of time to tackle a specific issue. There would be no standing subcommittees. So there would be no committees that are essentially, enshrined in policy that would meet in perpetuity every month, year after year. So that's option 1. Topics discussed would be aligned with the work of the larger council, and the recommendations would be shared with the board through the council unless otherwise directed. And that the subcommittee membership would be comprised mostly of members from the larger council. So that brief scenario I gave where like the academics council is 60 people and maybe 5 to 6 of them splinter off and tackle a topic of interest for 3-4 months and then report back to the larger group. That's a potential scenario that plays out in option 1. In option 2, it's the same thing. Subcommittees can be formed on an as-needed basis, but there may be some standing committees. So some people in the working group felt there are certain topics that we're just going to need a committee every year. We're going to need an ELA, a math committee every year. Some in the working group have shared that perspective, and we've heard that this summer as well. So We want to continue to get feedback on the survey that we're developing that is going to go out in a couple weeks. People who are more partial to option 2, we're asking them what topics, what areas do you think APS, if you do think we do need to have some standing subcommittees, what topics are they? What areas are they? And so we will aggregate that feedback and share that with the working group. Everything else is mostly the same, but that is the one big difference between option 1 and 2. Option 1 is really ad hoc subcommittees, no standing, like we have now. And option 2 is the hybrid where we would have some standing committees. Yes, question.
Sorry. No, I'll go. So I am an incoming chair as well of the subcommittee. I did not provide feedback during the summer because I felt that I should meet with my subcommittee first to have a full statement for all of us. And will you allow subcommittees to provide letters to or emails?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Any and all feedback is welcome. We're going to be collecting feedback through October, through the 3rd week of October. Yes, absolutely.
If a particular subcommittee is mandated by state or federal law, can that fit within option 1?
It could. Right now, there's not currently. ASAC is the only one that we are required by law to have.
I think the Career Tech and Adult Ed Advisory Council is required under Perkins funds.
I don't know if it has to. Yes, yeah, I haven't seen any language that it has to be an official school board advisory. There might need to be a committee of some sort, whether it reports to the superintendent or the exact structure. I know they do need to convene, but I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a school board advisory committee. But yeah, welcome, and anything you want to share with us, happy to review and talk with our directors there too.
And there was an online question, jumping back to the recruitment side of things real quickly. When an emphasis is on recruiting diverse members, how do you plan to account for the extra time involved in being on both a council and subcommittee? Might this narrow the pool rather than expand it?
Yeah, I think a lot will depend on what the expectations are of the subcommittee. If they're expected to attend both meetings, or if in lieu of, like, let's say the November meeting, they're meeting just as a subcommittee and they're not expected to attend both. So I think that is some details we still would need to work out. And I wonder too, like, if there's flexibility, if that's the decision, do we need to like enshrine that in policy? Or do we give the subcommittees flexibility to make that decision? Like, do you need, I don't know if that's an area we can bring it up with the working group that we need to like codify that, like subcommittee members need to go to both the council and their subcommittee meeting, or if that can just be decided within the council.
I have another follow-on question on that one in time and stuff. Please.
Sorry, let me just add on to what he said. Additionally, I want to point out this bottom bullet for both subcommittee members comprise mostly of members of the larger council. It does not, what we're proposing is that they do not need to be comprised exclusively of members for the larger council. So there may be times when a subcommittee would really benefit from additional voices, expertise of other people who wouldn't necessarily also be serving on the parent committee. And that we've heard, especially from our board liaison, to her is really important that we're creating lots of opportunities to bring in different voices and perspectives. So.
Was there another question? Oh, sorry.
The question is about the budget reps and what is the working group envisioning how that role is going to function, and what like additional support or meetings will they be attending?
Yes. Yep. So the budget reps on all the 5 councils would be quarterly with Andy Hawkins, our business officer. And so to try to break down those silos, because right now BAC functions as its own group. But now by having a budget perspective in all of the 5 councils, they would convene quarterly to share the budgetary issues that are being brought up in each of the 5 councils, and they could coordinate with our business manager. And then when they, excuse me, when they go back to their council meetings, they would have that lens of meeting with Andy Hawkins, our business officer, and the other reps, so that we're breaking down those silos. So in addition to attending the 5 council meetings, the budget reps would meet quarterly as a group as well to discuss some topics across the division, so that Andy also has that lens of what's being talked about. So those are the structures that we propose. I think that really quick, do I have 2 minutes to just share the
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so community engagement, there are some more details. I'll make sure that this deck gets out to you, but real high level, I mentioned we're gonna do questionnaires and focus groups. And our period, the 22nd to the 10th from the survey. And then focus groups, we are looking, and you guys are certainly eligible to participate in a focus group. We are planning on three focus groups for families, and then also our community partners. So groups like this and others are welcome. We are looking to form some focus groups. So we will reach out and have some opportunities for people who want to volunteer time, either for an hour one evening, or I've been doing some lunch hour focus groups in the past to give people a chance, if that works better for their schedule, to share their feedback. So there'll be a chance to do a deeper dive. I know a lot of times this is some heady information. People need time to process and formulate some more ideas and questions. So definitely this is an initial proposal. This is far from the final product. That we're going to have a robust engagement. I really hope we hear from, over 1,000 people in the next, 5-6 weeks, and bring back some quality feedback to the working group so they can really look to make the refinements to make this further strengthen this proposal. So we're excited about it. I think there's a lot of great opportunities here. It's a good starting point. The working group is a good group of staff and parents and students. It was people have volunteered their time to meet for a whole year, and they come up with this. So I appreciate their work. Jenny has been a great support, and just know that it's a very engaged group and passionate about APS just like you are. So we look forward to moving on this journey with you and keeping you up to date on our process. But any last minute questions for me? Okay.
All right. Well, thank you. We definitely appreciate it. We'll make certain that once we hear from you, when surveys are open and whatnot, we will get those out to everybody in ACTL. If you do, oh yeah, hold on.
Sorry. One more thing again. Certainly if you have feedback you want to give right now, Jill, if she could be a collection point for that to feed to us now, you don't need to wait for the survey. It is something, as you're thinking about this, in addition to the details, the goals, the structure, please also think about, does this sound exciting to you? Do you think this will be exciting to other people in APS, in Arlington? Is this something that you think people will want to be a part of? Because that enthusiasm and energy is something that would be really important as well. And so please think about that and give feedback on that as well. Thank you.
I assume one of the things you would like us to do between now and the next meeting is promote that this survey is coming and answer it. Okay.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
And subcommittee related, make certain, if you know people who want to get engaged and are interested in one of the more granular topics of the committees, sign up for the committees. I'll send that out in some of my follow-up information. I know many of the committees are still looking for additional members that will focus on specific topics. Okay. All right, with that, Jenny. I like to.
Hi, good evening. Welcome. It's nice to see everyone. Now you've been listening a lot. You're going to talk. So we're going to talk about engaging our communities. For those of you who participated in our August 20th info session, I talked a bit about like what we do as representatives, the expectations, and the big one is that you're here to be the voice of your school community. And how are we going to do that? So how can we best engage our communities? Well, that's up to you guys. So I want you to brainstorm, so you can brainstorm at your tables, and talk with, and if you want to join the table right behind you, Jennifer, we're going to take just a few minutes to identify at least 3 different unique ways that you can engage your school community to get information. So for example, use this, like how can you engage your school community on the advisory groups and getting involved in their focus groups, but at least 3 unique ones. So in your table, I want you to spend a few minutes. I just took my watch off and I'm looking for my watch. What time?
It's
So
8:50,
we give
so
them, okay,
10.
so you have about 8 minutes. Let's try 8 minutes because then I want someone to share at least one of those. and then we'll have a little wrap up with that. So please do that now. Oh, sorry.
And please
Oh, yes.
record those 3 ideas and either put them on the note cards or email them to Jenny.
Yes. Yeah, if someone at your table would be your scribe and write your 3 or more ideas on one of the note cards, I'll take them all home with me and I'll write them up. Thank you. First a lot. How to engage with your input? How are we gonna? I actually just wrote something while we were talking. It could be different, but
But they have a.
leadership of ACTL, they can provide us. But I actually have some of these page summary. And I also did it's always say that. So. But, I'm gonna down, but I don't know. Oh, you're new. Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
literally, no, I was gonna ask you to help.
And so we have a. I, last year I think we have to be, my step 1 is I update that.
Oh, shoot.
My step 2 is finals. She does a weekly. And so I thought that was on and even that anything that she was saying that she that I recommend. If there's she would put it in her blast. Consolidated. And then everything we have. Like, that's coming out.
I was like, I don't know if there's anything else.
The next thing was. Information that we have. Want to get your insight. But, you know, just the feedback. So I think there's a lot of processes to make sure that I'm like, this is something that in my experience, we need to be right now, the same thing.
Or you send me out. Jenny. I don't like I already put that.
So what we can do is. So, and I'll talk, so I'm gonna talk about you and show you. Like, HBS pack, you know, and they would do PTA, then they would do. And some people would send it out and like, so it wasn't consistent for what I'm looking, and then there's. And I don't have probably 4 minutes to think of but what I'm looking for is and organize and make sure that every student gets the same information and so not. That makes sense.
Sorry. Everything.
No, I'm sorry.
I think that's all.
So it's there's a lot of language at science, but it isn't like Spanish, it's just she's like using ACTL as a framework.
You set a timer, perfect, perfect. Oh.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. She said, you know, she had a teacher that helped her, like, writing it on range, right? She was like, I don't know how much they gonna tell. My daughter is, it's like,
Right.
something that, you know, understand.
So. At like when this comes out. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Did you know about this?
One minute warning. 1 minute left. Please make sure your scribe is noting your 3 or more ideas.
Yeah, my husband was like that. Outside of
I went to school visits, so PhD, but I wonder if I could get them right up together. Yeah. That's what I was last year. People really know. Sorry, first off. Or be part of the change. They'll complain or be a part of the change.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you to wrap up, so we do wanna be able to get you out of here at 8:30, so if the group can have your last comment. What I'm gonna ask now is for if each table can share at least one of your ideas, just so we can hear them. Where shall I start? You can start. All right, great. So we'll start with this table and then we're just gonna go around the room, so be ready. You guys are next. Okay, you're next. All right. Oh, yes, I want to give you the mic and then I'll walk around.
So we talked about utilizing neighborhood networks in the community to get the word out to a variety of stakeholders. We talked about utilizing the Parent Teacher Association to also get out information. We also recognize that some schools have a more vibrant working Parent Teacher Association than others. So just being mindful of who that Parent Teacher Association is connecting with and thinking about ensuring that other means are also utilized in those connections as well. And then we talked about, and we didn't nail down a specific way of doing this, but ensuring that some of our more marginalized groups or groups that aren't necessarily going to connect with something that comes out digitally or something that comes out on ParentSquare, or, you know, there's a lot of ways that information is disseminated, and in a lot of ways that's great. Also really overwhelming, especially for our families who English is not their first language, and so they're trying to navigate everything in their second language, or, you know, possibly not even a language that they speak, and also navigating those digital worlds as well. So we haven't nailed down exactly how to do that, but just keeping that in the frame of mind.
Thank you. And if you have some of those same ideas, we'll just hear any new ones that, like, something new, maybe one from each one so we can move a little quicker, so you have that.
So I'll try to do this then quick. I don't think we talked totally the same, but we had said that we needed to intro the ACTL in terms of what we do to our school through a PTA, through the PTA or PAC in our case, or a principal newsletter. And then two, to see if the ACTL leadership could create a monthly summary of what we've discussed and what the high level items are and what the action items need to be. And we can just turn that around. And we had talked about this, Jill, and turn that around and send it to our PTA PAC or the principal to send out, because there are far too many inconsistencies by school. Some school, like I know Wakefield kills it, crushes it, and then other schools not as much. And so we all want to be like you guys, and make sure that nothing is missed.
Thank you. And who's our spokes?
Some of the same ideas came up in our discussion, but one thing that we talked about was most schools, particularly those on the south side, have like foreign language coordinators. Like there might be a Hispanic coordinator at a school, and they're in touch with all of the Hispanic families on their own, you know, listservs or whatever. That would be one way to get out to people who might not normally hear about it. And then Anna suggested that at her school they have a room parents little network, and that might be a way to reach out to some people as well.
Great ideas. Thank you for the new idea. And now, Ms. Table. We had a lot of similar ideas, but the one thing that we talked about was having multiple touch points. So like digital challenge. So school events is one thing that we discussed. A lot of schools will have things like bingo nights, or they have concerts. Those are really great touch points to get info out to parents. If you have the opportunity to ask to be like a speaker, like, can I speak for 1 minute before bingo night starts or at the beginning of bingo night? If you can have little papers ready with like QR codes, like when the survey comes out, if there's going to be something on your campus, and pass that out to everybody who's coming to open house or coming to something in person, but just trying to get multiple ways. And I definitely think getting the word out in school events. Yeah. Thank you. Another one, two more. Who would like to be the spokesperson? Oh, okay. All right. Well, so I want to be.
Yeah. Engaging the principal, we know that all administrators are a little bit different, but you can forge a good relationship and ask them to include things in their, you know, weekly or monthly newsletter that can be helpful as well, whether it's a QR code or, you know, just a high level summary of what's going on. And then I'll just mention Parent Square. I've heard of some schools being able to engage with that application, which automatically translates into other languages for some of our families that don't have English as a first language. So that might be an opportunity there as well. I'm not sure how you go about doing that, but.
Thank you. And no, all right. So I will pick up the card so you can like leave them. But I have one final ask for you. So I would like for every one of you right now to commit to doing one of them before the October meeting. So we're going to try to reach out to tell our community we need them to engage on this advisory working group thing or whatever. If there's something else, but you want to let them know, the idea of tell them who ACTL is. So whatever topic you're going to engage with your community, you're going to need some engagement between now and our October meeting. So I would highly encourage you to write it down and speak it out loud to the people at your table. And that's your first accountability. Your second one is in October, we're going to ask you what you did and you'll report back. So you can tell us what you did, what were the peaks and valleys, like what worked, what didn't, because we'll learn from each other from whatever it is we choose. So I know because I'm back at the school that I was at before that they can use Parent Square. So I'm committing, I'm going to connect with the principal. I'm going to talk with them, like reintroduce myself and how am I going to be able to use Parent Square to get those advisory committee information out. So I'm committing to doing that. I'll let you know how it goes. Hopefully it works. And I would like everyone to tell at your table with me now. Tell someone or tell your child, whoever you want to tell, but speak it out loud, make the commitment. I'm
I'm gonna ask you about that.
Do we have like shared kind of sound bite that we tell people what it's about? I mean, because I could ramble at the notes that I chose, but I just got here and I don't know how to specifically read what is our shared.
That would be
Yeah,
amazing.
so we do have a flyer that has been disseminated a few times. I'll disseminate it again.
Thank you.
I will also put, that one slide that has our 4 goals. That was part of our August 20th presentation, and I will send that out as well, so that you have some talking points that you can use and say, this is what ACTL is and what ACTL does, and you can do it in a quick soundbite.
And there's a survey. Yeah.
And that there's a survey coming, yeah.
Is that the most immediate action item that you want to share information about?
The survey,
Yeah.
yes.
Well, I would say also there was they talked to, because there's, yes.
There's people on
There was also, was it, I don't even remember now who brought it up. Oh, it was, Kathleen Clark. There's the student device group that's coming out, and that I think is also going to be of major interest to our communities. And then there was the high school schedule thing.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do is summarize all of our information from this evening. You will also have the recording if you want to listen to an hour and a half of our conversation again. But I will summarize that information. I will create a 1 or 2 page flyer about some of our key pieces like the survey. Why is it important? We want your feedback, those types of things, so that you then can use that in whatever manner you want to actually use that in. Yeah.
Thank you. Could we also utilize APS resources in order to have that translated into Spanish?
So I do that.
Perfect.
I will give it to you. I don't do other languages,
Yeah.
but I will do it in Spanish.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so real quick, just wrapping up for this evening. First of all, thank you all. It was great to see so many of you and also meet some of you. So just a next month preview, we are meeting on October 8th. October 1st is oh shoot, which one? Rosh Hashanah. And so we are not going to meet on October 1st. We're going to meet on October 8th. And then our ACTL spotlight will be on literacy. And then we'll talk about standards of accreditation and results. So last year, the Virginia Department of Ed released their new standards for accreditation. So we went under that framework for the first time last year. And so Jonathan will be back to talk about what that framework is and how APS quote unquote scored on that accreditation. Anything else before we close out? All right, thank you all very much, and we will see you next month. And I'll let you know if we're doing that one virtual or not. Yes.
Hi, I'm Jessica.
Yes, I wanted to, yes, apologies on your name. I
That's
will
okay.
get that fixed.
That's a very common mistake. I wanted to ask about the subcommittees. Are there?
Give me 1 minute. I just want to stop the recording.
We,